Hello, Horlick High School. Today we're going to be looking at evidence and statements and artifacts for educator effectiveness. This is just going to be a brief guide on how to upload artifacts and then write evidence statements to those artifacts. So just a quick overview of what an artifact and what an evidence statement is. An artifact is basically a document of some sort that depicts your professional practice or progress towards a student learning objective. So what could be included as an artifact would be if you have lesson plans, if you have an agenda from a meeting you've attended, if you have transcripts from courses you've taken, if you have photos from your classroom, videos from your classroom, anything of that nature that can be a tangible digital file that you can actually upload, that's an artifact. Whereas an evidence statement is a factual statement regarding your professional practice. And an evidence statement must always connect to either an observation made by an evaluator or that artifact that you've uploaded into My Learning Plan. The evidence statement also must clearly be labeled to the specific components in Danielson. So you're going to have to tell your evaluator what components of Danielson this evidence statement relates to. And I think doing this will make more sense. So we'll go through some examples here in a little bit. This is just a very generic format for writing an evidence statement where you have the artifact name. So for instance, let's say I'm uploading a lesson plan. I would say my lesson plan is aligned to, and then you would look on your one-page Danielson paper and figure out what components that artifact aligns to. Then you would talk about how this artifact shows how and then you would use language from the Danielson Combaum book that we got a few years ago. And I'll show you what that looks like right now. This is a digital copy of it, but it says the Framework for Teaching Evaluation Instrument 2013 edition. It's a large book. It's got a spiral bound backing to it. And in this book, it goes through the different Danielson components and kind of discusses what distinguishes a person from being, say, proficient to distinguished and so forth. So you'll want to access this book. Either I can send it to you digitally or have your physical copy in front of you. It also is encouraged that you upload artifacts that you can align to multiple components of Danielson. So it is to your benefit to upload less artifacts that you can basically leverage multiple components to. So here's an example of a real evidence statement from an artifact. So notice in the top here, kind of in more of the gray text, this is that same basic sentence stem that was in the previous slide. But now I've taken that sentence stem and made it into a real evidence statement about an artifact. In this case, my artifact is my lesson plan. So it says my lesson plan on plant life cycle is aligned to 1D, which demonstrates knowledge of resources, and 1E, designing coherent instruction. This artifact addresses how I incorporate a botanist into the unit to provide the students with real-life experience around the life cycle of a plant. And so this would be a decent evidence statement because it includes the artifact name highlighted in yellow, lesson plan. It includes the components, again highlighted in yellow. I'm including components 1D and 1E. And then I'm going to use language from the Danielson Combaum book to kind of support my picking of components 1D and 1E. Let me show you what I mean by that. If we go to the Combaum book and I scroll down to 1D, I'm probably wanting to shoot for something in the proficient range, ideally distinguished, but something in the proficient range. I'm going to be looking at this text here, and I want to try to find something that puts me on the proficient scale. And the reason why I think that this would be a proficient category is texts are supplemented by guest speakers and field experiences. So I've just incorporated a guest speaker in my classroom when I'm talking about plants, and so this would put me into the proficient category. To be distinguished, I would have to go a little further and maybe find someone at like a college or university to be able to support my students' learning. And maybe this guest speaker was from the college or the university, and this would be actually a evidence statement that I could actually put myself into the distinguished category. Right now, this is just an example, but that's basically what I mean by using this comb-bound book to kind of help guide you as you write your evidence statements. So I think doing this will be a lot better than me showing it to you in a slideshow. So if we log into My Learning Plan, and on the left-hand side, if you find the spot that says My Evaluations, and you give that a click, you'll be brought to this page, and what you want to select is Artifacts. So when I select the Artifacts button, you'll come to this screen, and you can see I've uploaded artifacts from past years. They're showing up here, but I want to upload a new one. And so if I want to do that, upload, so the little green plus sign, and it's going to bring up this box, Upload File. In the name area, I'm going to name this artifact. So whatever it is that you're uploading, you want to give it an appropriate name. For this one, I'm going to put Plant Lesson Plan. That'll be the name of this artifact. For the description, this is where you'd want to write a 1 to 2 sentence summary about the artifact that you're uploading along with the evidence statement. So I'm going to go back to this piece right here, and I'm just actually going to copy and paste this into my learning plan. So my lesson plan on plant life cycle is aligned to 1D and 1E. This artifact addresses how I incorporate a botanist into the unit and provides the students with a real life experience around the life cycle of a plant. That's a very nice description. We are not looking for an entire book here. Basically, you're just talking about what the artifact is, what components of the Danielson framework it aligns to, and you're pretty much set to go. So for types, I'm just going to click the drop-down menu, and with this being a lesson plan, I'm just going to click the option of instructional planning. If you feel like it ties into any of these other types, you're more than welcome to check the boxes, but for me, I think with a lesson plan, it's probably just me kind of planning how I'm going to carry out my instruction for that day of class. Under the categories, I'm going to basically click professional practice. A lesson plan is something I do as a teacher, and it's part of my professional practice. If my SLO is being hit on with this lesson plan, you certainly could click that box as well. But for right now, I'm just going to click professional practice. Under alignment, we have all the different components of Danielson, and I'm going to pick 1D because I talked about it in the description, and choose a criteria. Frequently, there's only one criteria to choose from, so I select that. The key, and this is very important, once you've done that, you must click Add Criteria so that it shows up down here. Right? If you don't click Add Criteria, it doesn't get tagged to this artifact. Now, if I want to add another component to this, I would then go back into my rubric, and I also talked about it aligning to 1E, designing coherent instruction, and then choose a criteria. Again, there's only one to pick from, and then click Add Criteria. So right now, this artifact has two components from Danielson tied to it, component 1D and component 1E. If we scroll down, I can now select a file that I want to upload. So I'm going to click this blue arrow to choose a file. I have this file on my desktop, and it's just called Lesson Plan. So I select that file, and then I'm going to click Save. You do not need to notify an administrator. That is not necessary. They actually prefer you not to do that. So please don't notify an administrator, but then you would click Save, and then that artifact would show up in your list of artifacts, which is back here. One of the common questions I will get is, how many artifacts do I need to upload? Generally speaking, it really is up to you as a teacher in terms of you proving to an administrator where you think you rank on the Danielson framework. And I know that's not the answer you probably want to hear, but at a minimum, I would say you should upload 4 artifacts per domain. But your goal is to really make sure you have some evidence or an artifact that ties to each of the components in Danielson through an evidence statement. And obviously, the more evidence you have, the more of a case you can make to score for those threes and fours on the Danielson framework. So more is better. I mean, you want high quality. You're not just looking for a bunch of quantity, but generally speaking, you want to shoot for at least four per domain. And if you want to do more than that, obviously, there's nothing wrong with adding more than four. Thanks so much for your time. I hope you have a great day. We'll see you later.